behaviors with doodles. Let's go. Number 1, listening to the same song on repeat until you are...
If you've seen videos like this, or this, chances are that you've wandered into the world of ADHD TikTok. ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders in childhood, according to the CDC. People with ADHD may be hyperactive or have trouble paying attention or controlling impulsive behaviors. Dr. Anthony Young is a clinical psychiatrist with the University of British Columbia and has a particular interest in ADHD. He and his colleagues became intrigued when they started to notice an influx of patients seeking help for their focus and concentration, all of which coincided, he says, with the rising popularity of so-called ADHD TikTok. So Young and his team set out to look at what kind of information was being shared. What they found was shocking. More than half of the top 100 most popular videos at the time about ADHD contained misleading information.
I think the whole conversation around mental health, of course, has changed for the better in the sense that people are actually quite open and honest about talking about their individual struggles.
I don't know why I'm crying.
But the challenge or the flip side of it is that it almost becomes talked about term in the popular sphere where clinical terms might start to get misused. For example, there was one video that talked about object permanence in ADHD.
Remember we talked about how I have ADHD, so I also have object permanence issues? Yeah, it's like an out of sight, out of mind thing.
The term object permanence really has nothing much to do with ADHD. Object permanence is really a more fundamental developmental concept for babies, and it's really whether or not the babies understand that people still exist if you can't see them or hear them. There's another term that's very commonly used, something called like rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yeah, did you know that 100% of people with ADHD experience rejection sensitivity dysphoria?
And if you actually really dive down into even where this term came from, it's a term proposed by one psychiatrist, but it's not a universally accepted term, and it's certainly not a term that I would say the vast majority of psychiatrists use.
Young worries that for people who have ADHD, the trend of self-diagnosis could potentially lead to more stigmatization of the condition. Around 10% of children in the US have been diagnosed with ADHD, the CDC estimates.
This has happened historically in the past where people would more commonly say things like, I'm so OCD, I'm so bipolar.
So ADHD.
If everybody starts identifying themselves as having ADHD, you know, if like 10% becomes 20%, becomes 30, becomes 50, becomes 60%, then really what is the disorder that we're talking about here? Where are we drawing the line?